It's amazing how the Mac and Logic Pro have completely democratized music creation. I mean, between Apple Silicon and the built-in instruments and effects in Logic Pro, the barrier to entry for your creative ideas has never been lower. But I do still think that us creatives have this innate desire within us to reach out and physically touch what we're controlling on screen. The threshold of a compressor or the cutoff of a filter. So when Melbourne Instruments reached out about their Roto-Control and its latest integration with Logic Pro, I was curious to find out, what could the Roto-Control offer that other controllers haven't already achieved? Roto-Control for Melbourne Instruments, I have to say, is pretty quirky and unique in its design as a control surface. And when they first sent it to me, I was pretty skeptical. I mean, I have purchased and owned so many MIDI controllers that just end up collecting dust. So the question was, would Roto-Control add to my workflow or just be another piece of gear that looks cool but never gets used? The first thing I noticed is the mechanical keyboard style buttons across the controller. It has a pleasant amount of full color display so you know exactly what you're working with as you work with the controller, but the most notable feature has to be the 8 fully motorized control knobs that move and adapt based on what you're focused on in Logic Pro and allow you to grab hold of anything and control it from this control surface. Even more so though, besides having 8 fully motorized endless rotary controllers, actually these control knobs adapt their behavior and provide haptic feedback. So watch as I switch modes on the Roto-Control. The knobs silently jump to new positions. And when I adjust this filter, the knob feels smooth. But when I switch to a parameter that has discrete steps such as compressor's knee control, I feel notches for each one of those distinct steps. And when panning, the knob stops at hard left and hard right, but there's also an indent right at the center position, as there is with the fader at Unity. I have to admit, the haptic feedback of the Roto-Control genuinely changes the experience. I mean, it's not just values on a screen. You can actually feel where you are in the throw of a parameter, and it makes the experience more satisfying, more musical. Now, this is all possible because Melbourne Instruments released a firmware update for the Roto-Control that provides dedicated Logic Pro support. So now you can take control of your sessions with this unique controller, everything from transport to the mixer, plugins to smart controls. Starting in mixer mode, you can see from left to right across the Roto-Control that each LCD displays the name of one of 8 tracks from this project. Now think of each column of knob, LCD, and button as one track or channel strip. And essentially you have control of up to 8 tracks or channel strips at a time in your project. So you can easily adjust the volume of different faders, 1 through 8. And because the knobs are touch sensitive, you just have to touch a knob to select that track. You can also mute each individual track or unmute, and you can page through banks of 8 tracks or channel strips at a time using the left and right arrows on the left-hand side of the controller. Now these knobs and buttons are not just limited to volume or mute. You can actually customize what they control. By holding select, you can change what the knobs control between volume, pan, and sense 1 through 12. And you can change what the buttons control between mute, solo, record arm, or input monitoring. Now for those who want further control over their channel strips, you can press the function button while in mix mode. This provides further control over a single channel strip, from the fader to panning to levels of your individual sense. Now let's switch modes. To do that, I'm going to press on the mode button and I'll choose Smart Control mode. Here, the smart controls for your selected track and channel strip will automatically populate across the controller, providing you with direct control over the most important parameters for shaping the sounds of your tracks. And once again, pressing on the left and right arrow buttons allow you to navigate through pages or banks of different smart controls that are available. Plugin mode allows you to control the individual plugins of your tracks. By holding the select button, you can switch between the different plugins on your selected channel strip. Once selected, that plugin will automatically open, and if you've mapped the controls of that plugin to the Roto-Control, you can immediately take control and start working with that plugin. Because I've gone ahead and already mapped out the controls for the channel EQ, I can enable different EQ bands and immediately get to work, boosting, cutting, adjusting the Q and frequency. Of course, all plugin parameters won't fit neatly across 8 knobs and 8 buttons, so Roto-Control provides multiple pages that you can map parameters to. And you can navigate between pages of plugin parameters, again using the left and right arrow buttons. Also, if you press the select button instead of hold the select button when in plugin mode, you can bypass or enable different plugins on your channel strips. As part of its Logic Pro integration, the Roto-Control also provides transport control, with which you can use to begin playback, stop playback, begin recording, enable or disable the cycle range, as well as enable auto punch. If you have any hardware MIDI instruments, you can also use the Roto-Control in MIDI mode to control the different parameters of your hardware instruments. As you may have noted, the Roto-Control requires you yourself to map plugin and instrument parameters to the control surface. So programming your own mappings is going to take some time. However, once you've mapped your most frequently used plugins to the Roto-Control, it's stored in its internal RAM. So if you go from, let's say, your MacBook to your desktop, it's going to remember all of those mappings regardless of which system you're using. To begin mapping of your instrument and audio effects to the Roto-Control, you first select that instrument or audio effect in plugin mode on the controller. The plugin will open on screen. Initially, the LCDs won't display any values. So I'll press the Learn button. The Roto-Control is now primed and ready to begin mapping out different controls to the controller. So I'll touch the first knob. Now the knob is ready to be assigned to a plugin parameter. All I have to do now is click and drag a little bit on the plugin parameter that I want to map to this knob on the control surface. Roto-Control immediately gets to work learning that plugin parameter. You'll see the control on screen hop around a bit as Roto-Control is learning all about that parameter. And once complete, Roto-Control will display learned on the LCD corresponding to that knob, and the mapping is done. Once done with plugin mappings, you just press Learn again to exit Learn mode, and now you can take control of that instrument or audio effect right from the controller. Plus, Melbourne Instruments provides a Roto Setup App. With the app, you can further customize the knobs, displays, and buttons for the different controls you've mapped. In this case, I'll select the first knob, and I can change both the display name as well as the color related to this knob. I can change the type of knob between either knob, step, or center indent. I can set the minimum and maximum value for each knob type, as well as specify indents and steps for each type, meaning the user can program that haptic sensation different values around the knob. There's more beyond that. You can customize the button behaviors as well. And as you can see at the top, you can program up to 8 pages of controls across the knobs and buttons. After living with the Roto-Control for a while now, I genuinely use it. It surprised me, like beckons to me to use it. Between the motorized knobs, the haptic feedback, and the different modes, they work. But there are some limitations to be aware of. First is storage. So again, the mappings you create for your instruments, your audio effects, they're stored inside the Roto-Control, which is great if you're going from like a desktop to a MacBook. You don't have to remap everything. It just takes the mappings with it. But it can only store up to 64 plugins worth of mappings. And if we're talking audio effects, it treats mono and stereo instances as separate plugins. So if you open the channel EQ, the compressor on a mono track, that's a set of mappings you have to set up, and that counts as one plugin. And then if you open it on a stereo track, you have to map it again, and that's a second plugin. It's 2 for 1. So that's a bit of a limitation, especially if you use a lot of plugins in your sessions. But Melbourne Instruments did let me know that this is something they're planning on dramatically improving upon in the future. So today it's 64 plugins. Tomorrow, a month from now, it may be way more. Second is that the mapping process is very much a manual process. It's up to you to set up all the mappings for all the plugins you like to use. It's not like you get it and all the plugins in Logic Pro are mapped, but you have to do third-party stuff. No, you have to do it all yourself. But the flip side of this is while it's a time investment up front, what I do like is that I can map the Roto-Control exactly the way I like to work. Just enough control, not too much, not too little, and there's like 8 pages or 8 banks of controls that I can set up. So you really get to customize the way that you like to work, and that I do like and appreciate. With all that said, who is the Roto-Control for? Well, if you're someone who values that tactile, hands-on experience of interacting with your music, you don't want to mouse around for faders or pan knobs or plugin controls, but instead you want to reach out and touch something. And you want it accomplished in an elegant way where the knobs automatically adjust and you also get that responsiveness, that feedback of end stops on a control, notches for parameters with a set amount of values. That's who the Roto-Control is for, someone who wants that hands-on approach. Now, if you're someone who's completely fine with a mouse, with a keyboard, key commands, you've never have once desired owning hardware, well, the Roto-Control is not for you. This is like a quality of life thing. It's not like a need to have. It's like a, man, this is so satisfying to experience. It's that kind of thing. And if you're satisfied with your mouse and keyboard, stick with it. So I hope this video kind of shines a light on another control surface that is finally available for us Logic users. It's been a long road of very few hardware accessories that directly integrate with Logic Pro, and now they're starting to crop up more and more. And the Roto-Control is something I really dig. You can check out the link in the description below if you want to learn more. Talk to you later.